You have $700 million and nobody knows. Not your neighbors, not your coworkers, not the woman at the dry cleaner on Peachtree who has been pressing your blazers for 5 years and has never once asked what you do. You're not hiding. You're just ordinary on purpose. While everyone else is out here chasing the thing that looks like wealth, you quietly became it. And the most unsettling part? The number arrived in a completely unremarkable email. Subject line: Q to portfolio summary, final. No exclamation mark, no congratulations, just you standing in the paint aisle of a Home Depot in Decatur, Georgia, holding 2 sample cards that looked completely identical. This is what $700 million actually looks like. It starts with a vending machine in the break room of an office building in Midtown Atlanta. Not a revelation, not a business plan. Just you, walking past it on a Tuesday afternoon after a meeting that ran long, watching it sit there, half empty, the bottom row of water bottles sold out, the snack column on the left jammed on something that looked like a granola bar from the previous decade. And instead of being annoyed, you stopped. You looked at it differently. You thought, who actually owns this thing? You went home and found out. It took about 40 minutes of searching, which is 40 minutes longer than most people would bother. What you found was a name, a small operator, a woman running maybe 15 machines across 4 office buildings in Buckhead and Midtown, pulling in somewhere between $55 and $125 a month per machine after product cost and location fees. Not glamorous, not even interesting really, just a number sitting on a screen while the rest of the apartment was quiet. But you did the math, and the math did something to you. If one machine in a decent location cleared $85 a month net, and you placed 5 machines, that was $425. 10 machines, $850. 25 machines run tight, right locations. You were looking at somewhere between $1,600 and $3,800 a month coming in whether you showed up or not. The money wasn't the point yet. What got you was the architecture. The fact that the machine didn't need you. It just sat there in a hallway solving a small problem for a rotating cast of strangers, and it paid you every single time. You spent $875 on your first machine, used, a little scraped on one side. You placed it in the lobby of a mid-sized medical practice in Sandy Springs in exchange for a percentage of revenue and a handshake agreement. The first month it cleared $290 gross. After product, after the location cut, after driving out there twice to restock, you netted $185. $185. Your coworker made more than that doing a single Saturday shift. Nobody congratulated you. Nobody even knew. You sat with the number on a Thursday night and felt something that wasn't quite pride and wasn't quite disappointment. Something quieter than both, but you didn't quit. Because you weren't looking at the $185. You were looking at what the $185 proved. It proved the architecture worked. So you placed a second machine, then a third. You started watching laundromats the same way you had started watching the vending machine. Not as a customer, but as someone trying to understand the ownership layer underneath. A small coin laundromat in a working-class neighborhood could gross anywhere from $55,000 to over $190,000 a year. The ones that failed usually failed for operational reasons, not market reasons. The need itself never went away. People would always need to wash their clothes. That need did not negotiate with recessions. It just kept going, load after load, quarter after quarter. You bought your first laundromat for $53,000. A small operation in College Park. 12 machines. A lease with 4 years remaining, owned by a retired teacher named Gwendolyn who had run it on handwritten logs and sheer stubbornness for 11 years. The books were rough. The cash flow underneath them was real. The first year, it netted $36,000. You did not celebrate. You used it as a down payment on the next one. This is the part nobody sees. Not the scaling, not the compound effect of 9 years of quiet decisions. Just a woman running numbers at a kitchen table at midnight, in an apartment in East Point, Georgia, in a city that had no idea what was accumulating inside it. You added a second laundromat in Morrow, a third in Jonesboro. By the time you had 6, the system was running without you most days, and you had started looking at other things. You spent a Saturday driving routes out of Atlanta, I-20, I-85, the connector stretching south toward Macon. And you started noticing billboards the way you had once noticed vending machines. Not the ads on them, the structures themselves, the land they sat on, same process. 1 hour of research, 3 months of reading, Then you bought your first ground lease on a billboard site in Henry County. The advertising company had a 15-year contract on the structure. Your job was to own the dirt underneath it and collect a check every month. Some months, you genuinely forgot it existed until you saw the line item in your account. You added 2 more over the next 2 years. Together, they run between $2,800 and $3,600 a month in ground rent. You do not care what the billboards say, you own the ground. Around year 5, you bought your first surface parking lot through a county tax auction. A Tuesday morning in a government building in Clayton County, flickering fluorescents, 6 other people in the room. You paid $41,000 for a paved lot near a transit hub that nobody had operated properly in years. A second lot came 18 months later. Between the two of them, $61,000 net annually. You see a deposit every month. That is the full extent of your involvement. Then the cleaning company. You had a contact who managed commercial real estate in Buckhead, and you asked her once, almost as an aside, what single service every building in her portfolio could not function without. She said cleaning immediately, without hesitating. The crews that showed up every night after everyone else went home. Invisible when they worked. Noticed only when something went wrong. You found a small operation in Roswell owned by a man named Bernard, who had built it over 26 years and was now 63 and tired. 14 contracted clients, office buildings, a pediatric clinic, 3 school campuses. Annual revenue just under $1.4 million. Net margin thin but consistent. The kind of business that does not make headlines and does not need to. You bought it from Bernard over 2 long conversations and a handshake. Your accountant's name is Karen. She has been doing books for small business owners in Atlanta for 22 years. She does not impress easily. She sits across from you at the conference table in her Buckhead office. You have handed her a folder. She reads it slowly. She reads the second page twice. Then she looks up and says, I have never in 22 years seen a portfolio that works this hard and makes this little noise. She means it as a mild professional observation. You take it as the best thing anyone has said to you in years, because that is exactly what you have been building. Not a brand, not a vision, not a company with a mission statement and a pitch deck. Just a quiet collection of assets that solve basic, unglamorous, permanent human problems and generate cash every single month, whether you are paying attention or not. Karen closes the folder. She asks whether you've considered something with more visible upside. A fund, maybe. Something that could scale in a way people could see. You tell her no. She nods and does not ask again. What she does not see is the logic underneath the structure. Every asset in that folder serves a need that does not go away. Not in a recession. Not when interest rates move. Not when some new platform disrupts the way people shop or communicate or work. People wash their clothes, they park their cars, their offices accumulate dust every single night. There is no disruption coming for any of this. There is no competitor who will out-innovate a coin laundromat in College Park. The bold ones, the ones raising rounds, speaking at panels, being profiled in business magazines, they are in markets where being interesting is the price of entry. One bad quarter, one missed trend, one platform shift can erase 3 years of work in a season. You are not in those markets. You are not trying to be. You are in the Tuesday morning markets. The ones held in government buildings with flickering fluorescents and 6 other people in the room. The ones that just keep running, quiet and steady, long after the interesting thing 2 blocks over has closed and posted a heartfelt note about the journey. Karen says the full quarterly package will be ready by end of week. You thank her and drive south on I-85 in a 2020 Camry with 84,000 miles on it and a small dent in the rear quarter panel from a parking garage in Midtown that you keep meaning to have looked at. You do not have it looked at. There is a woman at the industry dinner. She arrived in a white G-Wagon with a custom wrap. Matte, the kind that costs more than the paint job it replaced. Her bag is the one that has a wait list. She has mentioned her portfolio twice in the first 20 minutes, both times in the direction of whoever seemed to be listening. She performs wealth the way some people perform confidence, loudly, in advance, so nobody has time to question it. She asks what you do. You tell her you own a few small businesses, laundromats mostly, some other things. You watch her face run the numbers, the Camry in the parking deck, the blazer from a rack sale 2 seasons back, laundromats. She smiles. And the smile is the kind that doesn't quite reach. And she turns toward the woman to her left who has apparently just been named to some board. Good. Because that pivot, that small, efficient, unconscious dismissal, is worth more to you than anything else that will happen tonight. The moment someone decides you are not worth their full attention, they stop tracking you. And the moment they stop tracking you, you can move exactly as you want to move. People misread stealth wealth as humility. For you, it has always been a strategy. The ordinary life is armor. You wear it deliberately. The Camry is not a compromise. It starts every morning without asking for anything, handles highway miles without complaint, and disappears completely in any parking structure in the country, which is exactly what you need it to do. The average new car transaction right now is close to $48,000. The average monthly payment is around $720. You paid cash and have spent nothing on it except oil and tires. Every dollar that is not a car payment is going somewhere that compounds. That is not a philosophy. That is arithmetic. What you've learned, slowly and then all at once, is that visibility is expensive in ways that have nothing to do with money. The moment people understand what you have, they stop relating to you and start relating to it. Conversations change temperature. Requests appear. A relative you haven't spoken to in 2 years finds a reason to text. You've watched wealth change the quality of a room the moment it becomes visible in it. Not out of malice. Most of it isn't even conscious. It is simply what money does to the space around it when the space can perceive it. So, you keep the space clean. The Camry, the Smyrna house, the laundromats. The carefully maintained appearance of a woman who is building something sensible, but not remarkable. It costs you almost nothing to sustain, and it returns something money cannot purchase directly. The ability to move through your own life without being perceived as a destination. At the dinner, you stay 90 minutes. You have 2 conversations worth having. You leave at 8:40. On the drive home, you pass a strip mall off South Cobb Drive and notice the corner unit has been dark for at least a year. You make a mental note to check who owns the parcel. The Camry needs nothing. You drive it home anyway. There's something you haven't told anyone, and it has nothing to do with the portfolio. Your closest friend since your mid-20s is named Priya. You met at a networking event you both thought you were going to hate, and you were both right about the event and wrong about each other. The kind of friendship where a call on a random Thursday carries no agenda. Just checking in. About 8 months ago, Priya called on one of those Thursdays, and there was something underneath it. She had been building a small creative business for 3 years, a textile and home goods brand with a real following, a newsletter, a waitlist for her seasonal drops. She had found a retail space she loved, a corner unit in Ponce City Market, good foot traffic, good light, the kind of address that would legitimize everything she had built online. She needed $90,000. The lease deposit, the build-out, 3 months of operating runway. You could have put that in her account before the call ended. From your phone, sitting in a parking lot somewhere, $90,000 against your current balance sheet is less than 2 weeks of passive cash flow. It is not a decision, financially speaking. You didn't send it. Because here is what you have learned, slowly and at some cost. Money handed to someone before they have the structural foundation to absorb it does not solve the problem. It accelerates whatever is already present. If the unit economics are soft, capital makes them softer. If the operator doesn't fully understand how a physical retail lease works, the base rent versus the NNN charges, the personal guarantee, the break-even math, then money just buys a faster, more expensive version of the same education. So instead of the wire, you asked if you could come over Saturday morning. You sat at Priya's kitchen table for 3 hours with her numbers spread between you. Her build-out budget was undersized by about 40% for that location. Her revenue projections assumed foot traffic figures that were optimistic even by the market's best quarters. You went back the second Saturday, and the third. By the fourth conversation, Priya had done something you had not anticipated. She had gone and found a different space, a smaller unit in East Atlanta Village, lower rent, lower build-out requirement. She had also found a small business grant through a city arts program that covered $25,000 of the initial costs. The rest she could fund herself. She signed the lease 6 weeks later. She called you the night she got the keys. She said she felt like the decision was actually hers, which was different from the way opportunities had felt before. You sat with that for a moment after you hung up. You didn't tell her what you could have sent. You will probably never tell her. There are rooms inside your life that nobody gets to walk into. That is the part that does not ease over time. It is the particular weight of sitting across from someone you love, watching them work through something you could dissolve in 60 seconds, and knowing, fully and without comfort, that dissolving it would be wrong. The armor works. The portfolio runs quiet. The account grows. Nobody watches, nobody asks, but nobody sees it either. And some evenings, that registers as its own kind of cost. The email arrives on a Wednesday at 6:48 in the morning. You are in the paint aisle of a Home Depot in Decatur. One of the laundromat locations needs repainting before a code inspection at the end of the week, and the property manager sent you 2 color samples to confirm, and you were already out, so you stopped. You are holding 2 paint cards, Alabaster and White Dove. They look to you completely identical. You are tilting them toward the overhead light, trying to find the difference when your phone vibrates. The notification is from Karen. Subject, Q2 portfolio summary, final. You usually read these on a Sunday morning with coffee. You almost put the phone in your pocket. But something in the number at the top of the preview stops you. You put the paint cards on the shelf. You open the email. You read the summary line once. Then you read it again, slowly. The way you read something when your brain is not prepared for what the sentence actually says. Your total verified net worth, including all real property, business equity, liquid holdings, and portfolio assets, has crossed $700 million. You stand there in the paint aisle. The lights above you are the color of nothing. Somewhere toward the back of the store, a pallet jack is moving. That low, mechanical sound it makes when it reverses. A man 2 feet to your left is comparing trim samples with a quiet intensity that suggests this is genuinely important to him. Nobody in this building knows what just happened. Nobody in the city knows. The number exists on a phone held by a woman standing in a paint aisle in Decatur, Georgia, who came in to confirm 2 shades of white that are functionally the same color. This is the moment. Not a dinner reservation, not a phone call from someone who says, "Finally," that you made it. Just overhead lighting and the smell of hardware store, and a number that has been accumulating through 9 years of Tuesday mornings, Wednesday transfers, and Saturday conversations at kitchen tables nobody photographed. You had imagined what this would feel like. You had assumed there would be a perceptible shift. Some internal rearrangement that announced the before had become the after. There is no shift. There is the paint aisle and the pallet jack and Karen's email and 2 cards on a shelf, and the quiet, steady hum of a life that has not changed because a number changed. You reply to Karen, "Thanks, looks right." You pick up the Alabaster card because you have to pick one. You photograph it and text it to the property manager. This one. You walk to checkout. The total is $6.74 for a roll of painter's tape. You do not use a rewards card because you can never remember your phone number for it. In the car, before you start the engine, you sit for a moment. 9 years ago, a used vending machine in the lobby of a medical practice in Sandy Springs netted you $185 its first month, and you told no one. You sat with that number in the apartment in East Point and felt something that had no clean name. Not pride, not exactly satisfaction, something quieter than both. Something that pointed forward. This is the same feeling, exactly the same, just with more scale behind it. And that sameness is not nothing. It might be the whole thing, because it means the feeling was never attached to the number. It was attached to the architecture, the proof of concept, the specific satisfaction of a system running the way you built it to run, without drama, without audience, without anyone in a paint aisle in Decatur, Georgia, having any idea. You start the Camry. The laundromat inspection is in 4 days, and the back room still needs 2 coats. You drive back the same way you came. Same road, same car. Same dent in the quarter panel you've been meaning to have someone look at. Nothing about the outside of your life has changed in the last 20 minutes. Nothing will change tomorrow. The laundromats will open at 6. Karen will send a follow-up about Q3 projections by Thursday afternoon. Priya's shop in East Atlanta Village will have a line on Saturday for the new seasonal drop, which you already knew was going to sell out because you read the pre-orders last week. What's different is quieter than any of that. Somewhere in this ordinary week, you are going to watch someone spend a significant amount of money to look like they have it. And you are going to notice something you could not have named 9 years ago in that apartment in East Point. That the performance of wealth and the architecture of it are rarely found in the same person at the same time. The knowing doesn't make Wednesday easier, but it does make you wonder, what are you actually building? And for whom?